Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Donna. Welcome to my home in Chicago.
Watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
I'm Donna Mondi. I'm an interior and product designer in Chicago, Illinois. So right now we're in my home on East Lakeshore Drive, which is a historic landmarked district in Chicago. So if most of you probably know the Drake in Chicago, we're right down the street from there. So I didn't actually find this home. I found my husband. And my husband, he had found this home a few years before I met him. So let's just say he was geographically desirable. So I've always lived in Chicago, but in the west suburbs. So this home is my first time living in the city, and I've been here for about 8 years, and I've loved every minute of it. And in my soul, I am a city girl, and I knew that someday I would get down here. So this is our formal living room, and the goal with every project that we do is to really take into account the architecture of a space and try to design a room that respects that architecture. So one of my favorite elements in this room is the plaster ceiling. So I designed it to be in an old world craftsman medium of plaster, but I also wanted it to be more modern. So I love blending those two elements together. And so the pattern is more of a fractured pattern, which is unusual. You don't typically see that in plaster ceilings. Another focal point to the room, I would say, would be the fireplace, which has sort of a really modern sort of stepped stone facade to it. And then we used a beautiful Ansax tile with antique mirror, but it has a mesh backing to it, so it makes it look even more interesting. I am not a big pattern person, so you're going to see a lot more texture in my home, and that's the way that I kind of express myself versus lots of pattern. One of the other elements that I think is important in our home is our artwork. Some of it was from my husband. He had before. He has great taste in art, and some of it we collected together over time. So we have these beautiful women, one here and one in our foyer. They are images from a South American prison, and they're mugshots of these beautiful women. But there's something really captivating about that, and I really love dramatic artwork that really kind of sucks you in and grabs your attention. So this is one of them, and we have another one in our foyer that I'll show you. One of the tricky things about artwork is when you have something as impactful as this piece, it's really hard to select the other pieces of art because you want to complement them and not compete with them. We also have the beautiful view that we really do want your eye to go through. So we chose to just do really simple drapes on the sides and not do anything else blocking the view. So for this wall, we did a grouping of glass blown sculptures from Sklo. And so I love that that's got some pattern and repetition to it, but it doesn't fight with the main piece in the room. Sometimes when a room is getting too pretty and everything's just looking too fancy, I like to throw in a piece that looks very old, maybe collected. This one I think looks more like you pulled it out of Lake Michigan, but I like it and it actually works. And if you notice on the other side of the room, we have this beautiful lacquered stepped cabinet, which is quite the contrary. So that's how I create tension between pieces in the room, but it comes together really beautifully. So for this area, we have a very Art Deco style mohair sofa, which I love. It's super comfortable, but it's also really glamorous and elegant. And then we have these iconic chairs that have the high gloss lacquer, very deco in style, and done with a beautiful velvet. This is my version of pattern, would be something like that. And then we have a silk and wool rug for the floor from Stark, and that also brings some pattern in. And what this rug did was it kind of grabbed different colors that I was introducing and bringing them together in a really nice subtle way. So it kind of grounds the space and connects all of the elements. The last thing I'll show you in this room is I love this color block art because again, it's a pop of color without it being too powerful or too overpowering for the room. So I love these series of color blocks. In the background, there's some very sexy 70s style artwork or photographs behind there that you would never know. And I kind of like that little hidden gem. And it's grounded here by a beautiful bench with nice clean leather seating. Another thing you can incorporate is something like this book from Annie Leibovitz. And what I love about it is it really draws people in. Whenever we have a party, people come over and they flip the pages. And it's just every day we come in here and change the page and I still find new art. And so it's like movable art. It can change with your mood. And there's just one after another of these beautiful photos from Annie Leibovitz. Most of these are celebrities. So whatever you're feeling, you can change it. So this is a study that's just off of the living room. And so it's a great little seating area, a work from home space, watch TV. Your husband watches sports and you like to watch something else like White Lotus, then you can separate and do that. I'll show you the informal family room later. So these chairs, I love doing vintage shopping. So I find things and grab them up. And so I needed 2 chairs for here and I love that they're very loungy. I reupholstered them in a really pretty black and white boucle, but these are just a really comfy space to hang out. And we have a nice built-in here that grounds the TV. I like having the panel of the wood behind it to sort of ground that space and lots of storage underneath. Over here, I'd love to show you this sculpture. So this is Shakespeare, our modern Shakespeare. So one of the things that's great about our industry is the people that you meet. And I met this fantastic artist, Jimmy Martin, and he is in London. And so he does these really cool sculptures of Shakespeare and others, and then he graffitis them in a way that makes them look really modern and chic. And so again, I love that blending of old and new, and this is it in a sculpture. So next we'll take a look at, this is the other side of the seating area. So I bought this from, I also love our local resources. So Golden Triangle in Chicago. It's a purple mohair upholstered Hungarian settee. And it's just perfect for this space. It's a smaller scale, but it has this great detailing, so it can hold its own here. And then this light fixture I also love, which is Porto Romano, and their finishes are just stunning. So it's very sculptural, moody. When it's nighttime, this just gives you just a little bit of glow in the corner and kind of fills a dead space. If you notice, if that weren't there, this would look really blank. So it's important to think about what to keep when you're renovating a space. And so this home had these beautiful original plaster moldings, and so we maintained those. Even when we went into the living room and did the fractured plaster ceiling, we maintained the exterior molding, which was there from the beginning. And we also pulled the profile from that, so it connects things together. So there's a way to modernize your spaces without ditching everything. This is my work from home space. We do have a small home office, but I like the light here, and so I like to work from here. This is a Holly Hunt desk. I did have it refinished. It's probably about 20 years old, and so I did change the finish colors of it. So it's nice to repurpose some of your special pieces to fit what your style is today. Now we're gonna head into the foyer. A very large gallery style foyer, which is a little tricky to design and make it useful. So what I chose to do was to do a custom ottoman running down the center. My husband was kind of envisioning, as we have parties, that people would be sitting and putting their drinks down and kind of mingling all over the home. We didn't want a home that was static. We really wanted a home that was dynamic when we were entertaining. And so this works perfectly for that. So it's about a 10 or 12 foot ottoman. And then I did a table over the top, designed this, and had it covered with a shagreen looking leather so that it's very durable, so you can put your drink there when you're at one of our parties. And then I covered the walls in a nice subtle texture that has a little bit of sheen. It's a little dark in this area because we're getting a little bit of natural light, but not a lot. And so this background gives it a little bit of sheen with a grass cloth on top, very textural. but not too loud. Again, I was describing the artwork in the living room. This is another piece by Marcelo Grossman, the same artist, and another one of those beautiful ladies. And they're sad, but there's something so pretty about them. Then I designed a console just to have a nice vignette here, and it has a beautiful local artist, Francine Turk. This is a vintage lamp, which my husband had. He had it sitting on a floor somewhere, and it didn't make any sense. So I actually made this an oversized console so that we could highlight this lamp and give it a really nice place to perch. Back to the idea of what to keep and what to ditch. We ended up keeping these beautiful vintage light fixtures, and I love the way the light reflects on the ceiling. It gives this beautiful fenestration of light and pattern, and so those were a good save. We have this small little art grouping over here that's meant to be a little bit more whimsical, a little bit more fun. And so I think it's just a nice little surprise on your way in or out. So the building itself is a 1920s Edwardian style home, so I chose to go with more of a 1920s French modern. So I wanted to honor the architecture of the home, but also make it a little bit more sensual and interesting, sort of a deco, but in a European way. And so you'll see influences of that throughout the home. My favorite room in my house is our dining room, and it's because it is black, which is my favorite color. And most clients won't let me paint their whole room black, but it's very sultry and sensual, and it's all about candlelight, and it's very moody in there and glamorous, and intimate gatherings happen there. It's not a typical dining room, as you'll see. Next, I'm gonna take you to my favorite room, the dining room. So this is our formal dining room. It's a very intimate space. It's also oval shaped. So when I first met my husband, this was done, he did not do this, but the previous owners had a very traditional wallpaper in here, very simple, very bland, and it was all beige. And so all I could see was this beautiful, like highly reflective black space that would just envelope you, and that's what I created here. And then the dramatic light fixture, so I wanted something that would really like stand out and be impactful. We barely got this thing through the door. It's so large, but it's also very open, so it has this great ethereal feeling. And then I also wanted to treat the ceiling, and I didn't want to do that in black. I wanted it to almost look like a glass and steel ceiling in Paris that you can imagine. And so this is a wonderful wallpaper from Maya Romanoff that does just that. And then the furnishings in here are very simple. There's seating for 6, so this is an intimate space. I did these beautiful upholstered chairs from Baker. The head chairs are a little bit different. They have a beautiful wood grain on the back. And then I always want to throw in something old. I found these beautiful Aldo Turo bar carts, and these are from the 1960s. This one is green and brass, and this is a goatskin top. So they're quite old, but they're so beautiful. And then I have this one over here that's more in the brown tone goatskin, also with the brass accents. On top, you'll also see the tea sets. The tea sets are vintage as well. And so I think it just adds to the depth and the glamour and the curated style that I was going for here. And it really finishes off these window openings really nicely. This is probably the most important piece of art that we have. It's a patchkey, and it was originally hanging in the bedroom. And if you can imagine waking up every day looking at this, it was not quite right. So once I put it on this wall with this black background, it really just pops. And even as you're walking past the dining room, you can't help but look at this piece of art. It's very captivating. The last thing I'll mention in here would be the zebra skin rug. And so we didn't want to have a traditional rug that was cut to fit the oval. And so what I love about hide rugs is that they are, free form kind of. They're very ambiguous in their shape. And so they work in a lot of different places to just add a little bit of pattern and texture to the floor. The other thing that's great about hide rugs in dining rooms is they're very easy to clean. So that's also a nice feature. It's very functional as well. The last party that I had in here, to be fair, most of my parties are either catered or I order out. And this was just a bunch of girlfriends getting together. and we have Scorpio birthdays. So every year there's 3 of us that get together for our birthdays in November and celebrate together, and we talk about everything from astrology to life events to we're all in the design world, so we all have plenty to talk about there. One thing that I think is really difficult to do is to style a dining room table for every day when you're not using it and not entertaining. What I love about this is I tried to vary the heights with the candles. Again, this room is all about candlelight, so you're gonna see that focus here in the accessories as well. And then we did some low tea lights and then some texture with these little lava bowls that have a little sparkle inside, and a Christoffel beautiful vase that I think this was a gift actually for our wedding. What I love about it, it has sort of this little mirrored globe effect, so it reflects everything in the room. I think it's the perfect centerpiece for this dining room. I think I was always meant to be an interior designer, but I didn't really discover it until I was about 30. And I started going to school at night. I had 2 little babies at home, and I was kind of I felt like my brain was melting a bit. So I started going at night, and it just led me to interior design, and ultimately finished my degree and started a company. And here I am 24 years later, still doing it. And it just always feels right. When people ask me what my dream job is, it really is interior design. I can't think of something else I would rather be doing. I think the best part about being a designer is you create something in your mind that came from nowhere. It didn't exist before, and you have this vision, and being able to see that through, and then you go to your installation for your clients and the end result looks like your vision. It's creating something from nothing and being able to see that come to life. I think that's really exciting. So next, what I'd really love to show you is the kitchen. Now we're in my kitchen, my second favorite room. So this was a renovation that we did right about 2022, I would say. So it's been about 3 years, and we completely gutted the kitchen. One thing to know with vintage buildings is there are a lot of parameters and a lot of obstacles in your way. So we had to be really strategic. We wanted to expand our space. One of the goals was to add seating at the island. We did not currently have that. Expand our storage. So we added this full wall of cabinetry, but some are false because there's something running through the building here, a chase that we couldn't change. So you just have to be creative in how you're working with the space. The other thing we did, you may have noticed in the dining room that there was a door. That door no longer leads to the kitchen. So that door is here, but by closing that off, we gained this whole corner of space here that was unusable before. And so we really were able to maximize the counter space that we had. We added some storage here with a spice rack, an appliance garage. And what this change also allowed was a larger range. So we went with this beautiful Bertazzoni Italian range that has just this gorgeous face to it with all the brass knobs. And then I designed a custom hood, steel and polished nickel to top it all off. We did this great stainless backsplash, so super functional with a little shelf. And one of my favorite things here is the cabinetry. So it's actually polished stainless is the finish on this, but it gives it a polished nickel kind of feel. And we did all glass shelves in here. And this is all really highlighting my love of vintage glassware. And we have some new things as well. So you'll see some beautiful like Waterford and Christoffel. But this way, everything that's in these cabinets is really functional. We use it, but it's on display instead of sitting in a cabinet somewhere. And so I love that. And it also gives like this great glimmer of light, and it just brightens this kitchen up so that it doesn't feel too heavy. It's not super large. We weren't able to expand the space physically, so we just had to make the most of it. So next we'll go over to the kitchen. I love a good galley sink. And so this is a very functional sink. We didn't have a lot of space for it, but it's still a lot larger than a typical sink. And then kind of did this topiary treatment here just to sort of soften our views of the courtyard outside. On this wall, another favorite element would be this big oversized bullnose shelf, very European in style. Most Americans will choose to have upper cabinets everywhere and expand their storage, where sometimes it's really nice to have just a break visually and you want something that's just more pretty and something nice to look at. But this is also really functional as well. So we get extra countertop space, and you can obviously put other things on the shelf. I have it a little bit more staged. Like I said, we don't really cook a lot, so I don't really have a lot of, functional things that would need to be there, but I kind of love this little art moment as well. Many of the things that you'll see are found objects from across the world. So I travel quite a bit for work, and in that I always go shopping at vintage stores or flea markets across the country and across the world. And many of these items that you see are found objects from my travels. So it means a lot to me. And we also incorporate a lot of that into our client work too. So I do a lot of shopping while I'm traveling. So to solve our problem for the seating area, we ended up changing the layout of the island completely and added 2 seats down here. And we were able to make up the lost storage. There are storage cabinets underneath here, which makes up for anything that we took out of the island, the previous island. So another thing to note in here would be the cabinet finish. Typically, people are really afraid of lacquered cabinets. This is a eucalyptus, a stained eucalyptus with a high gloss lacquer finish. And to be fair, it is actually more durable than our painted finishes are. So we've had really good luck with it. May not want to do it with little kids, but we are empty nesters, so it was perfect for us. And it adds a lot of depth to the room. It's a great contrast to this gorgeous quartzite countertop. And the quartzite was chosen because I really did want something that was very dramatic, and it has this high contrast black-white with a little bit of warm taupey tones running through it, which brings in the taupe pink color. Something to mention about the cabinetry is I painted it all the same color as the walls so that this all becomes very seamless. I don't really want your attention here when you're in the kitchen. I really want you looking at the more dramatic spaces. This is the more functional side, but it's still really appealing, and just visually it stays quiet for you so that you can really appreciate all the other elements. I think every room could use a little bit of black. It doesn't have to be like my dining room black, but it just gives it's kind of like eyeliner. I feel like it's just a really great punctuator for a room. And so most of our interiors have some amount of black in it. So I think that would be maybe a different tip that you might not hear every day. So right off the kitchen is our informal family room. So I'll take you there next. This is the informal family room. So this is where we really hang out and watch TV at the end of the day. And so what I wanted was a really nice, comfortable sectional that would seat as many people as possible in this small space and kind of take advantage of every inch that we had to offer here. So this is a custom sectional, and I chose an indoor-outdoor fabric so that it's super durable, so we don't have to worry about how we live in here. So it's very functional as well as beautiful. And then we did a custom end table that would just, again, take advantage of every inch, and also intentionally sized it so that it's really easy to put a drink down there. So it's very clean and simple. I have this great marble cocktail table from Baker, a Caraman design, and I love that. I wanted something round so that you could move very easily around the space. Again, it's very tight in here. And then it's, again, about texture. Like you see this beautiful textured throw from Rosemary Hall Garden. And I love, this is my kind of print, like a very subtle, very simple little animal print, some fun pillows, boucle. So it's how the fabrics are all interacting with each other rather than lots of pattern. But you will see pattern. You'll see pattern on my floor. Again, kind of grounding the space, bringing in this beautiful kind of wine color that I wanted to introduce, and as well as that light teal kind of blue color, which is really soft and appealing. Got a small little vignette over here with an antique lamp that I love. And again, when things get a little too pretty, you throw in something that's, old, kind of African little side table. Some collected artwork that you'll see. I think bringing artwork to the floor is sometimes nice as well. And then just a cozy little chair just for extra seating as we need it. So something else I would like to highlight is this cabinet here. So this is one of our furniture designs. A lot of my work is inspired by classical architecture and architectural detailing. So you'll see molding profiles. So this is a fluted molding turned on its side and made into a beautiful TV cabinet. So this can be made at different heights or lengths or widths, but what I love is it grounds the TV. If you've ever seen a television without a piece of furniture underneath it, it feels lost. And so this to me kind of finishes out our space really nicely. So right off the family room is our powder room. So this would be kind of a less is more type of a powder room. We did redo it when we redid the kitchen and just kind of give it a little subtle update. So we've got some nice wallpaper that looks a little bit like galvanized metal on the walls, but it's very subtle. And then just it's a small powder room. So just a small vanity with the metal legs open on the bottom so it doesn't feel too heavy. And then we did a new mirror with this kind of industrial detailing. Decided to go with an art light. I kind of like the simplicity of that, and put your attention for lighting up on the ceiling fixture, which is this beautiful urban electric sort of blooming flower. So I love that. And then just topped it off with some sparkly accessories and some beautiful artwork. These pieces were from a local vintage shop in Chicago. So I love being able to support our local businesses and also find some really unique artwork that you won't see anywhere else. So when I'm traveling, I find unique things and I don't really know what I'm gonna do with them, but I found this at a flea market in France, and it's just a cute way to add a detail to your powder room that costs next to nothing, but it just makes it a little bit more special. Okay, so enough of the public spaces. Are you ready to go see the bedrooms? So we just came through the hallway down to the bedrooms. And one thing to know about transition spaces is to not ignore them. So you'll see this beautiful, dark, moody, textured wall covering on the walls there that just makes it look a little bit more special. So here we are in our guest bedroom. And one thing that I love about this is the way that we address the artwork. We did redo this room when we did our renovation a few years ago and wanted to just give it a refresh. And so we wanted to do something with artwork that wasn't too expensive. So we ordered these really large canvases from a printmaker that is very affordable. And then we had the flowers embellished with a local artist that we work with that does our murals, but she just did little highlights here and there and made them look even more special. Because of the grand scale, we did that across the wall, these 3 panels, and because of the size of it, it just looks much more impactful. And it was a lot less expensive than wallpapering the whole room. So kind of a little secret tip. And this is a Holly Hunt bed, which one thing I would say is we buy quality, because when you buy something that's really good, you can reupholster it or refinish it over and over again. This is a timeless bed to me. And so we've changed it twice since I've lived here, and may change it again in the future, I'm sure. So to kind of fit whatever our next aesthetic is. So I love this, detail of these pillows that are sort of attached to the headboard, and it gave us an opportunity to mix our fabrics, because you could keep them the same, but I also like the contrast in this case of texture. So it's a smooth velvet texture with a boucle texture on top. This may seem like a silly detail, but this is my favorite way to do a bolster. Bolsters are typically round, but I make mine in a football shape because they lay so much nicer and they look less bulky on a bed. And I just love the way that they look. So you'll see some foot bolsters in my interiors. I think I have several in this house alone. This is a room that my stepdaughter uses often, and she's our youngest of both of our sets of kids. So we wanted it to have a feminine quality to it. So we picked this light fixture that's got like a floral motif, but it's also in kind of a Sputnik shape. And I just really love the way that it, grabs your attention when you come into a space. And then if you look at the lamps really complement this well. So I have these Baker lamps that were designed by Jean-Louis Denois, one of my favorite interior designers and product designers. And they're just really, I would say Art Nouveau-ish, but just very beautiful and sculptural in their form and subtle. So I love these nightstand lamps. And then the other lamp that we have in here is this Porto Romano, just fun, whimsical. It's got the ostrich feet and the feathers, and it's just kind of a silly little lamp that looks so sophisticated. And we grounded this area with an antique mirror. So that's one that I found on an auction. I love searching auctions when I have the time. We created this dresser with Bradley, who did custom finishes and custom drawers. It's normally a cabinet with doors, but we really wanted it to function as more of a dresser with drawers. So we switched that out and added some cool hardware. The nightstands are worth noting. So these are my own design. This was one of my first furniture design pieces, probably about 10 years ago. And I walked into a Michael Kors here on Michigan Avenue, and they had this cuff bracelet that kind of looked like the base of this, and it was made out of lucite. And I thought that would make the most beautiful bedside tables. And so that was what created our first furniture design. So they're made out of lucite, so they're kind of ethereal. They look like they're almost floating and not there. They're not very, they don't take up too much of a presence, and it felt really right for this room. Okay, last room's up. I'll take you to the primary suite. Now we're in the primary bedroom. It's really hard for a designer to pick their favorite piece of furniture, but this has to be in my at least top 3. And I had these beautiful feathered chests made. They have this great gold leaf finish. They have feathers. The front of this is all covered in feathers. The inside is as beautiful as the outside with antique mirror detailing. The hardware, it's just like decadence in a chest. And so I have 2 of those flanking the fireplace in here. And then we topped them with these really cool sculptural mirrors, again from Bradley. But I have to talk about the wall covering, which is the base of everything in here. It's circle wall covering, and I wanted something that would be very dynamic, but not too crazy. And so I love this sort of undulating pattern of the wall covering and this gorgeous like coppery gold tone and white. So that was the backdrop. That was one of the first elements I chose for the space. And then everything else kind of was built on top of that. This fireplace has been here for quite a while. I didn't touch this one, so it's pretty simple, but it fits the aesthetic. I topped the fireplace with these Jean-Louis Denois sconces. They just have a beautiful form to them. And then another piece of art from our local Francine Turk, which is very like sensual, feminine. Love that. Some of the accessories that you'll see here, this is probably my favorite accessory. And it's this gorgeous like 1920s dancer, and she's just so elegant, and it's a bronze statue. And I found this at Randolph Market here in Chicago. It's a vintage market, and they have the best treasures that you can find. I probably found this about 10 years ago, 10 years ago. And she will stay with me forever because I love her. So the bed has this Hollywood glamour kind of shape to it. It's very oversized, has the flared edges, the tufting. I reupholstered this with our last renovation. Changed this to a white, beautiful white velvet. And I love my textures. So this is a faux fur throw that we had made. And it's very like simple in its form, but it looks very decadent and inviting. The pillows I chose because they have this great imprint of lingerie on them. So you'll see it's very subtle, but very classy. They stamped the lingerie into the velvet, and it created this pretty little pattern. The nightstands I created for this space. So these are our bedside tables, and they're very clean and simple. Again, trying to pick up like what is the focal point of the room. We have the view, we have the fireplace, and we also have the bed. So all the other pieces can sort of be supporting characters. And so this is just a really nice, clean, simple nightstand topped with a Ralph Lauren crystal lamp. And it just gives you a little bit of sparkle, a little bit of glamour, but also still very subtle. And then there's this great chaise lounge here that is upholstered in a textured velvet from Romo. And I love the way that it catches the light being in front of the window. It just plays with the velvet really nicely, gives you a little bit of sheen and reflection, and just a nice little place to contemplate. So to top it all off, I chose this dramatic chandelier from Bradley, and it's got a gorgeous gold leaf finish with these rock crystal details all the way around. So it's got that beautiful glamour of a traditional chandelier, but it's a little bit more modified, modernized for my style. So this is an artist that I found that I love his work, and I hired him to do this special grouping of artwork for me. These are hotels that we stayed at, my husband and I, on our honeymoon. And so they're our favorite hotels, and we wanted to remember them forever. And so it's kind of nice because it's a nice memory item that it's artwork, but it's also very impactful for us. And here's our pattern again with the rug. So we have this beautiful rug from Lapshy. It's wool and silk. And people are really afraid of doing silk rugs or even spending the money on a good rug. To me, the natural fibers actually wear really well and they're easier to clean. And so I'm a big fan of that. And putting silk rugs in certain areas, it's nice because it grabs that light again. You see the sheen hit the pile height and it just really pops. To me, when you get out of bed every day and you put your feet on this rug first thing, it's just, you know, you're gonna have a good day. The last space is the primary bathroom. So the truth is, I don't like to share bathrooms. And I think it's the secret to a happy marriage is having separate bathrooms. So this is all for me, which is wonderful. So I have space to spread out and I could really make it a little bit more feminine because it's just for me. So what I really love about this bathroom is the view. So it's so great coming in here and looking out at the lake every morning when I first wake up, and it's just, the lake always looks like an ocean and it looks different every time. At the end of the day, you see the city lights, and it's such a dramatic focal point in this bathroom. So all I wanted to do was kind of make this a room that would really support that and not detract from it. And so I did this subtle draping of a textured fabric just to kind of frame it out really nicely because this wall looked a little awkward on its own. And then the cabinetry itself, this is not original, but this was done before I got here. So I just painted it. So I did add molding to the top of this and expanded the mirrors so that we'd get more light reflectance in here. And then I added these beautiful long sconces that really sparkle because of the reeded glass that's in there. We recently changed out the plumbing fixtures to kind of give that an update, and the hardware as well. So this was like a kind of simple little update that we did as part of that renovation. So one thing to call out in here would be our Carolina chair. This is a chair that I designed. What I love is the way that the mohair wraps around these fingers that create the back and the sides. And it's just got this beautiful profile, and it's a great way to sit at a vanity. The artwork is very fashion inspired. So I found this through one of our local art brokers and did this series of 5, but I split them up. So I have the 4 on this side and the last woman over here, but it's just kind of a little nod to how much I love fashion. Fashion is such a big influence on my designs and in my life, so I think they're very closely related. So I love this little grouping of ladies. Runway ready. I would consider myself an extroverted introvert. So I'm an introvert at heart, which you would probably never know if you knew me. But so I recharge at home. So to me, home needs to have a calming feeling for me. And that doesn't necessarily come the same way for every person. So I think it's really important to understand, you know, how you recharge and how you want to reset at the end of the day and what makes you happy and what makes you feel calm. And so to me, that's what this is. This is where it's such a crazy busy city and life that we live. Like interior designers, we're, you know, out quite a bit and doing a lot of events and things, and it's really nice to just come home and have this really peaceful, now this is my oasis. It's not necessarily a typical, you know, beachfront property, or, well, I guess it is. We have lakefront property and that is really soothing. So I think it's just kind of creating something for you that makes you feel at peace. Homeworthy, it's been so great having you here and touring my home. Thanks for stopping by.
Thanks for watching. Go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content and shopping guides.